I'm not happy with the term because it does involve all of these assumptions on a negator, which are not necessarily true. So that said, we'll have a look at how standard negators might look like. I think like it's, so in modern Greek, you stick in then in front of a positive phrase and you get it negated. So I don't love her, you get a particle there. So there we have it. In Turkish, you know, the suffix has to come right after the verb it negates. So it's, you know, remember we talked about negation being very important to the meaning of the verb. It comes closest to the stem. And in Persian, you negate by sticking in a prefix. So on this slide you have like the 3 most common devices that can be reduced to 2 on how standard negation might look like in the languages of the world. And in the first one we have a particle, and then in Turkish and Persian, what do we have? The suffix and the prefix.
Suffix,
what is the cover? What is the cover term?
Affix.
So bound means of negation. This is a free particle. You can move it around. It doesn't carry any inflections. These are part of the verb form. Okay. So affixes. One goes after, the other precedes it. They're not, you may think that they're always easy to distinguish, but they're not always so easy, so we generalize and then we can go in. Other means of negation, tone is very, very common in the languages of Africa. So what happens here is like we have a sentence, they went to fetch some palm nuts, and it's the verb carry that we look at. So the stem is something like chi, and it has a high tone in the affirmative sentence. In a negated sentence, we have also fetched some, and Ekwe did not. So we have a prefix for the affirmative, and that prefix carries the high tone. The form chi for also has no tone, so it has mid-tone. Ekwe did not carry any boundness. Note that there is no express negative morpheme. What happens is that the stem carry gets a low tone, and the past tense morpheme gets a low tone as well. So negation is expressed by tone and the tense. Okay. Here there is no, the past tense is not there. Okay. So Igbo is one of the languages that will go exclusively for tone in the expression of negation. Such languages are rare. Usually you do have an explicit morpheme and tone, but Igbo is the extreme case. Okay. Now we're getting into the fact that negation may be expressed by special verbs. And when such language is Finnish, so you have something like I'm sleeping, and you have the stem, and the person number suffix, finite form. The person and number of whoever is sleeping are here, expressed on the verb. When you say I'm not sleeping, you get sleep in what in Finno-Ugric linguistics is called co-negative. So that's a special form stripped of finite affixation. The finite affixation goes on the negative auxiliary. Okay, so I am not sleeping is expressed by a negative auxiliary that takes all finite affixation. This is what's inflected for number and person. The verb remains in a special form that cannot carry person, number, inflection, and if relevant, it may take tense. Okay. So that's one possibility, one kind of a negative verb, and this is called a negative auxiliary because the sentence structure remains the same. You still have a simple sentence. All right? This is a simple sentence, and this is a simple sentence. The use of an auxiliary does not change the sentence structure. What I'm going to show next is probably the most complex case for you, because we will not only have a verb, we will have a change of sentence structure. So in Maori, unlike Turkish, Maori is exactly the opposite of Turkish. The verb complex comes in the beginning of the sentence. Maori and Polynesian languages are verb initial. No, very little vowel morphology to speak of. A word is defined as a verb because it may come in the beginning of a sentence, so we have a syntactic definition of a word class category, and a word can combine with aspect, tense aspect particles. So this is the general, usually there is a general tense aspect particle and then a less general one. So this stands for general, this is less general. And in Polynesian linguistics, this is called the verb complex, because you cannot, nothing in the word tangi, except that it has to do with weeping and crying, identifies it as a noun or as a verb. We only know that it's a verb when it occurs in a sentence, and it combines with relevant tense aspect particles. Then we know it's a verb. And in a Maori sentence, the noun phrase or the subject follows the verb complex. Okay, so we have the two constituents of this sentence. The child is crying or was crying, because we don't have specification of tense, we only have specification for aspect. And verb comes first, noun phrase comes last. This is the affirmative sentence. Simple affirmative sentence in Maori and Polynesian looks like this. When we negate this, the negative comes first, which indicates that it has some verbal character. And what happens next is that it is followed by the noun phrase. And the verb complex comes at the end of the sentence. Okay, so we have a reversed word order. In Maori, this indicates subordination. So essentially, what this sentence literally means, kaore also means yoke, literally means yoke. So there is no child that is crying. You have a complex structure where the negative verb is in the main clause and the negated proposition comes in the subordinate clause. So this is, we're going to take a break. Okay. So I can then.
Çocuğun ağladığı yok gibi bir şey.
Ağlayan bir çocuk mu yoksa
Yani
çocuk ağlamıyor
çocuk
mu?
ağlamıyor ama çocuğun ağladığı yok diye söylüyorlar.
Yani
Okay.
ağlayan bir çocuk yok demek
Let me
istemiyorum.
just
Yok,
finish.
the child diyorlar siz. Belirgin bir çocuktan söz ediyorlar.
Okay, so when you keep here, you keep the sentence structure intact. Still a simple clause. Conventionally, this is referred to a negative auxiliary. Here, the sentence structure changes from simple to complex. the calore thingy is referred to as a higher negative verb. Okay. They do the same job, they are both verbs. So the difference is that when they can, when the morphology of the language allows, they will carry inflections. This one will combine with pertinent tense aspect particles and stuff. I mean, in Polynesian, we're not talking about person number inflection, but it will have other verbal features, and the most verbal of its features is that it does come in the beginning of a sentence. So this is very different from having a particle. I mean, some particles will come from these things historically, but in a synchronic picture, this is the variation that you get. Okay. Okay. Take a 10-minute break, and then I will summarize stuff.